Hey everybody, I'm William.
I'm Kina.
And we are the Nerdyweds.
And today we're showing a clip from the Beans and Dice RPG call-in show where they do a monthly YouTube live stream talking about all things RPGs. In this clip, William talks about his most influential RPGs.
You're listening to the Beans and Dice podcast, a podcast about how we game.
Hey folks, welcome to the Beans and Dice podcast. Don't check your clocks or your calendars. It is not Thursday night. It is not live call-in show night, but we will be opening up the phone lines. It is a Friday night, and it is the first Friday in May where myself, Carlos, and
Wayne
get together to talk with our friends about RPGs. And in today's episode, we bring our special guest from Ron Talks Tabletop, my man, Ron Fraser, and from Nerdyweds, our friend and gamer, William. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for the chat. The plan for you folks at home is going to be, we're going to talk to you about some of the RPGs that influenced us, that we love, that are right off our shelves to talk to you and tell you about. William, you want to open up the floor with some of the games that influenced you as an RPGer?
So I have Vampire the Masquerade. Now this is a game by White Wolf Game Studio. It's the World of Darkness, I believe is what they're called now. World of Darkness Gaming. And also Werewolf the Apocalypse. These are the older versions of this particular game, or these games. They do have new editions out now. I do have the new editions in the living room. I just forgot to bring them into my computer room.
Oh, so the newer editions are being actively used.
Yeah, that's the ones you can find at the store now. Are the newer editions. They get rid of some of the things like the Camarilla and stuff. Isn't as in the base game as you can buy source materials for some of the stuff, but I haven't really explored the new version of this game yet. I have had it for a couple of years now, but it's really a difficult game to get on the table because it is a bit more cerebral. This isn't a tabletop RPG for beginning players, the vampire one. The werewolf's a little more forgiving because it can become a little more hack and slash. It's
my style.
Yeah, but the vampire game tends to be more about personal horror, more than I have my lovely assistant handing me from off camera.
There you go.
The new Vampire the Masquerade. She's in the living room watching.
Seen that cover in a while. That's a pretty cover.
Oh,
wow, that is awesome. I need some help like that. Listening to the show, handing you what you need. Now, Vampire the Masquerade, right? I have always been adjacent to it, meaning it's been around me. It's always been around me. It's always been talked about. And all I know is vampire, period. That's it. Like, what's the setting? What is it about the narrative, the fiction that brings you in?
Setting can be wherever you want it to be, and it's usually set in modern time. So you can bring your players into the city they currently live as vampires within that city. There was a show came on, I think
not Buffy,
season.
Right?
What's that? No,
not Buffy, right?
Dresden Files.
No, it was the it'll come to me in a minute. But they actually made a Vampire the Masquerade TV show. They actually made a Vampire the Masquerade TV show. Also, Vampire Bloodlines. They're getting ready to come out with a new Vampire Bloodlines video game, which is Vampire the Masquerade.
Right.
Kindred the Embrace.
Kindred the Embrace. Yeah. I was looking it up. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I was also going to say that even though it was not official, and I think there was some legal action against it, there was a series of movies called Underworld.
Yes, I was just going to ask about that. Go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, which are very reminiscent of vampire games. So what are your thoughts on that, William?
Oh, yeah. You got the werewolves versus the vampires versus other denizens of the night. They even have settings like Vancouver and a few others where werewolves and vampires coexist and actually have like a joint society. But the most of the world, vampires are kill on sight for werewolves, and vice versa.
Okay, so like for me, playing World War II games, I watched a lot of documentaries, and that helps keep me in the fluff. Watching like Underworld would be something that would get me into the fluff of this RPG.
Yeah, you can definitely bring that in as a campaign setting in the games. But again, Vampire, the rule set tend to be more of personal horror and navigating the society of being a vampire.
Yeah, the different
more than
courts
the combat aspects.
Yeah. And it's interesting. Like I was original. There was like the first big wave of D&D players, right? That are probably my age or even older than me. Then there was White Wolf and all of their games, the vampire games, and they came out as like a second wave, and it was a whole new generation sort of role play gamers that played those games. And for a lot of years, there was kind of like this. I don't know. I always felt like there was this kind of like Sharks versus Jets, right? With D&D players versus White Wolf players, right? And it was like you know, the oil and vinegar. And what's interesting, that I grew up playing D&D. My wife grew up playing vampire and werewolf, and so
like Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, well, no, it was interesting seeing our different takes on role playing, because White Wolf games, especially vampire, it's a lot more role playing, like a lot more ROLE. ROLE.
Right.
A lot more, you have to get into the character and you do your background, and it's a lot more. It's very rare for a character in a lot of White Wolf type games to have a happy ending, right? Yeah. You're either a bad guy that's going to get messed up, or you're a good guy that's going to go insane and get messed up. You don't really have a good ending. Whereas in D&D, you're always the hero that's moving up and saving the queen, saving the village, and stuff like that.
Yeah,
it's a very different mindset when you get into that game system. But it's good because it really stretches your ability to be a good role player, I think.
Yeah. Now moving on from vampires and werewolves, this is a great fantasy setting game. I absolutely love this game. Actually, I have another copy of it over there that's seen better days. This is Earth Dawn. It was printed by Faza Games back in the 90s. This game, it uses kind of the similar world settings to like Dungeons and Dragons, except in this game, you are an explorer coming out into the world after this terrible cataclysm has all but destroyed the world. And it's kind of a Dungeons and Dragons meets Fallout. Everybody's emerging from cairns that are like the shelters that have protected the population from these creatures called horrors, which are interdimensional beings that feed on the terror and misery of conscious people, of sentient beings. And they're coming out and they're trying to reestablish society because the magic levels have gone down enough to where horrors are no longer walking the earth, but they're still there. And there's still an element of the game where you can run into a horror in a deep, dark dungeon and it can mess your world up. So Earth Dawn, it's a really cool system. If you like the fantasy genre, it's an older book. You can still find copies of it around. And I highly recommend it. It's a great system of game. It's one of my favorite fantasy setting games.
Awesome.
And
Ron,
then last,
go
ahead, Ron.
I have not played that one before.
Neither have I.
I've
heard about it.
Yeah, I need to pick up a copy.
I like that fantasy Fallout feel you talked about.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you kind of get
Instead
that.
of a nuclear cataclysm, it was these creatures from another dimension have come and destroyed the world. And now all these races are re-emerging into the world and recreating the societies that have been destroyed. And
it's not quite safe yet.
No,
Right.
It's not quite safe yet. No. They even have one horror called, I don't know what the name of the horror is, but it preys on dragons, to give you an idea of the size of the thing. Last but not least is another Faza game. Now, with the reemergence of Battletech's coming back. I've been to game stores where they have shelves and racks full of Battletech miniatures.
Show up on a Saturday or a Wednesday night at Armada, and you're going to find 3 to 4 tables with Battletech being played.
So
they would tell you, don't call it a comeback. They've been here for years.
I played Battletech when I was a kid. This is the complement to Battletech. BattleTech is what you play for your mech combat. If you want to experience what it's like to be a mech warrior outside of your mech, this is the game for you. I know the computer versions of Mech Warrior are essentially BattleTech on a small scale where you are in control of a single mech on the battlefield. The tabletop RPG version of it is it's the same. You're the commander of one mech on the battlefield, but this game takes over when your character gets out of the cockpit. This is the game you play when your character exits the cockpit. You supplement it with, they have rule set in here for playing mech combat, but you can then just switch over to the BattleTech rules, BattleTech miniatures to resolve BattleTech combat. But yeah, this is a great way to get out of the mech. And
there's so much fiction in that world.
Oh my gosh.
That Mech Warrior BattleTech world, the espionage, the politics, the taking over of, planets, it's missing in the BattleTech game because it is focused on combat. I could definitely see this giving that RPG gamer who also has the minis game the ability to kind of round it all out, all four corners of the world between those two games.
Yeah, you get on YouTube and find Tex Talks BattleTech. Oh man, he does like 2-3 hour like historical, like college lecture level histories of individual mechs, wars, and all this. It's
the
amazing.
Clans,
the dude has a voice that he just
commands presence.
And he's hilarious. It's all funny. So
great choices, great selection.